Always remember, the opinion you follow should be your own. Just consider the things stated here to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online.
I got to talk. I got to tell what I feel. I got to talk about my life as I see it.
Hey, what's up, Mike?
How's it going, Phil? Another good podcast here. I am certain of. So excited to be here again. And welcome all the listeners out there.
We got a lot of stuff to talk about, Mike.
We always do.
Where are you first? Are you still in Baja?
I am still in the southern part of Baja. That's right. Haven't moved at all. Haven't moved, by the way, since October. For those of you that didn't catch that from prior podcasts, I've actually been in the same location here in Todos Santos since October.
So, Mike, I want to start the podcast off with a question for you.
All right.
So, are you aware of the fires that are going on? I'm sure you are.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and have you heard that they actually literally don't have water?
I mean, let's talk about that for a little bit.
Well, so here's my question. Should everyone who got tickets for parking in front of a fire hydrant in LA get refunds? That's my question.
I know where you're going with this. But here's the problem, right? So I've heard, and I don't want to say there's sides to this, but I've heard a lot of discussion about the fire. And there's been a lot of discussion about blame from one thing to another, whether it's the policies of California, whether it's, they cut the budget for the fire department, whether there's only a few people that control all the water supply in California. They haven't done a good job clearing debris and stuff from prior fires. Some of it's like they've been allowed to build homes where they shouldn't have, blah, blah, blah. And it goes on and on and on. So, there's obviously the truth is always somewhere in between all of this. What I can say is, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to imagine that California has mismanaged something, right? I mean, I think we all talk about that all the time. There's no shock there. However, I did hear some people discussing the water supply situation, and in relationship to what has occurred so far, in order for you, let's think of it this way. If you had a house on fire in Boston, Massachusetts, let's say, and the fire department showed up and the fire hydrant was there and it was working and they had to blow water at the fire, how much water would it take to put out a fire on one home? So one of the interesting things I heard was there's no way you would ever have enough water to fight the fires that were going on currently in California. It's impossible. That amount of homes, which I don't know what that number is up to. I've heard it's over 30,000 structures have been destroyed, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that there's a couple things going on here. When you got 100-mile-an-hour winds and you've got fire spreading like mad hell, there's not enough water in that scenario to fight the fire from the ground, anyways. But were there fire hydrants that did not work and
a lot of
have water? Yeah. That can go back onto the city, the state, and whatever else is going on with that. I heard some discussion about, there were a number of resources, meaning fire apparatus and whatever, that were out of commission, blah, 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 blah. I mean, let's be honest, in any given scenario, at any time, there's probably a bunch of fire trucks that would be broken, as an example. But
no,
I don't know where I would
see the video.
Stand. Yeah,
Did you see the video? It was like it was like a. Have you ever seen what they call the boneyard, where they take all of the old airplanes?
Mm.
That's what it looked like for the fire department.
A lot. I did see that.
It was crazy. I've never seen nothing like that. And
yeah, I mean,
and a lot of them didn't even look like, you know, I shouldn't have been able to visibly see that they were in disrepair. Some of them were like broken down visibly.
Yeah, I mean, it's a challenging scenario for sure. You know, once again, it's you know, it's another news story that adds more drama / distaste, I guess, if you will, for the populace of America. What I mean by that is, I mean, look at that news story we talked about a couple weeks ago on the podcast, and the insurance guy getting assassinated in New York City, and there were so many people out there that were like, "Yeah, this is great," and you got to wonder, like, man, that's sick. But this fire thing has brought up a little bit more of that, because I've heard a lot of people commenting like, well, you know, it's a bunch of rich people, you know. Oh well. I mean,
but Mike, do you understand why there's? But I'm on their side, Mike. So I'm one of those people. Well, maybe not once I give my reasons. I'm not just heartless just because you got some money. It's that the coverage of the tragedy is only showing a small portion of the people, and it's the people who are most financially capable of getting through this. That is a distasteful thing to most people. Now, the part where I wish them bad, or I wish them harm, or I feel something against them, no. People are tired of when their tragedies come, they're kind of overlooked, but we're supposed to really, really be concerned about my mansion in the hills is burned down and I'll have to start off. Don't nobody want to hear that. We've been talking for months now about the economy. The economy also has a lot to do with it too. If everybody was doing well, they wouldn't have no time to have sour grapes about other people. But the basic thing is social media is they don't have a pulse of the people. Nobody wants to hear about rich people and their mansions burning down. And if you know anything about the whole area, there's like a major area, historic Black district that's larger than this rich district. I ain't heard that mentioned yet. And this is like a historical district. So you're losing something. These are all brand new houses. You're not losing something historic.
Well, I mean, I agree with you on that, Phil, because most of the news that you see is, you know, here's this latest movie star who lost their house, blah, blah, blah. Of course, those are the people they want to get on television, right? And we don't hear about the people that have possibly owned the home for 70 years or whatever, that were originators to that area. You're not hearing about that. But, you know, the other thing, I saw an interesting article the other day. There was as many structures damaged in the North Carolina flooding, and certainly to date, more people that were killed there. You didn't get anywhere near the news story out of North Carolina that you're getting over there.
That's precisely my point, because you don't have some enclave with a huge amount of famous people. You know, because not everybody is a celebrity. Some of them are the people, you know, who are managers and things like that. Rich folks, you don't have that same demographic of people. And that's why you ain't hear about it. You are making my point for me. I don't want anybody to lose anything. I don't want anyone to be harmed. And I don't base it off of how much you make or what your accomplishments are. But I do think that there is a protocol, there is an etiquette. You don't go tearing about people who don't need tearing over. The people that they have on the news, they got insurance. If they don't have insurance, they are still all right. And I feel for them. I mean, you don't want that to happen to you, but relatively, they have nothing to complain about. Yet they're the ones that's the only face I'm seeing.
And many of them, not to add controversy to this argument, but many of them are, like you said, fairly wealthy, affluent people that have largely, you could argue, are in control of a lot of things that occur policy-wise in California. So, it's come back to bite them in the ass, because then these are the same people that voted. Look, let's focus on this. The mayor of Los Angeles, right? I read an interesting article yesterday. I think it was the LA Times endorsed her, and then they put out an article yesterday that they no longer think that was a good endorsement. Well, no shit. I mean, she's a moron. I mean, this is the bottom line is she's just in the 20 minutes of her arriving back in the United States from her trip to Ghana or wherever she went to go see which, by the way, one would question why on earth, and let me guess, the taxpayers probably paid for this. Why on earth that the mayor of LA needs to go to the inauguration of the Ghana president in Africa is absolutely mind fucking boggling, right? Like, I mean, what on earth would she be doing there? But in any case, when she gets back, within 20 minutes of her hitting the ground during the fire at the beginning of this, she was incompetent. Like, if you saw those initial questions from the press,
well,
she had no concept of what to do, what to say, who to coordinate, what to do. I mean, she's the elected mayor of one of the largest cities in America. How the shit do we end up with these people?
Well, the reality is, I would venture to guess 98% of all mayors across the whole United States, if the same thing happened, they have no idea of how the fire department and any of that goes. The person that was in charge of the fire department was the one who stuck out to me, not knowing what's going on, not having answers. And matter of fact, they even showed an interview of her prior to this on a major morning show, and they were questioning her about some of the people they were hiring, because they were hiring uh, a lot of women. And so they were basically questioning that choice, and they gave the scenario of, if I'm in a burning building, and I need somebody to help me, who would you want? And then she said, now this is the lady that's in charge. She said, and I'm paraphrasing, she basically said, I would question the person that put themselves in the position that we had to rescue them from the fire. So you basically have three ladies, and I'm not making a point about them being ladies. It's just that they're ladies. There's three ladies in charge, and all three of them are totally
blamed it on the victim.
Yeah.
I mean, basically.
No accountability.
And I heard the same thing. Like, well, how come we have to rescue them?
Right.
Well, I mean, last time we checked, that's your job.
And I'm going to try and be polite about this. You said you saw the video, so that means you saw her. And
I did.
You can get a general idea of her thinking across the board about multiple subjects just by looking at her. You have an idea of what her lifestyle is. And basically, I think that the people that are in charge, those three ladies, it was more important to them to hire a bunch of women versus hiring people who can carry me down a flight of stairs. And 3 months before this, do you know they got rid of 70% of their fire department? Do you know 3 months ago that all the major insurance companies either left or they revoked fire insurance because they predicted this? This was not something that just all of a sudden the wind was blowing and they were caught off guard. Matter of fact, some of the people who have lived in the area for a long time who have means, they generally leave the area during this time.
Yeah.
So,
Well, you certainly have enough warning that you can get out. It's like, we have things called weather forecasts, and when you see the Santa Ana winds, like, look, they've been talking for the last 3 days that they were going to pick up today, which they have. I mean, a lot of this is predictable.
so that's where my coldness to the situation comes from, and it's not just for California; it's for people in Florida too. When people in those two areas complain about their hurricanes, and in California complain about their fires, I can't really get emotional about it. I'm like, okay, you moved somewhere where it's a natural disaster every year, and then you want an insurance company to insure that? You want me to
right,
and you want me to feel bad, and you want me to send money on a GoFundMe to help you rebuild your castle on a mountain? I'm just not feeling
well,
look,
I mean, look, Phil, like when you make it, I mean, there's got to be this is the problem in America in general, accountability, right? So look, if you're going to build a home in a canyon, in that part of California that is famously known for hundreds of years of these winds, and for somebody, I used to go out there and train on my bike, and we'd ride up and down those canyons. You can get wind storms and gusts that come down those mountainsides. That's unbelievable, like hurricane force. And this is all information you are well aware of when you make the decision to build there and or both live there. So yeah, it's hard to feel sorry for that. Look, if I build my home on 1 foot of dirt above sea level, on the west coast of Florida, that the odds are that at some point my home is going to be underwater from a hurricane. That's just a fact, right?
To me, people won't say this is apples to apples, but I'm saying, to me, this is apples to apples. This is no different to me than when you hear about like a cliff diver jumps off Yosemite and his parachute doesn't come out, or somebody does one of these crazy stunts and it doesn't work and they end up dead. If you are aware of the odds and you take them, I don't have time to be all emotional about that.
I agree with you.
I do feel bad that you lost your life, but you went into that with your eyes open. And it's no different with the people who move to these areas. You could not have reached the age where you're able to buy these $1 million homes and not be aware of what's going on in that area.
Now, I mean, unfortunately, and I'm not saying this across the board, there are many people that were caught in, quote, the crossfire of this as well. So, homes that had been there for a long time. One of the problem is that the issue has been compounded by the number of people and the number of homes that have been built. So you could argue that it's gotten worse over the years. We've done less and less to protect the people by choices. Like this is
it's gotten drier too.
It's gotten drier. There's all sorts of, there's been, look, they've caught people that were trying to do arson. So there's bad eggs that are involved in this. There's possibly, look, the more people, I just read an article this morning that said 95% of the fires in California over the last 5 years, they've determined were human caused. And when I say human caused, they weren't saying that they were lit or it was intentional, but they were, I was at a campfire, or it was a power line that got broken, because bringing infrastructure to humans. But if there were no humans there, then what they're saying is 95% of the fires would not have occurred. And by the way, 100% of the fires wouldn't have affected anybody because there'd be nobody there to burn. So, it's an argument that goes both ways, but clearly it's gotten worse because we're trying to disregard nature in a way. And good luck with that. We're always going to lose.
So, Mike, I have a conspiracy theory that I'm working out in my brain.
Oh, good. I
Uh,
love your theories.
this could be, they have the Olympics coming to LA.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have much land or places to build the structures that they need to build, and that would be a perfect area for them to fill out the different stadiums and event centers and things like that they need to do. It would be perfect if there was a fire and they could redo the infrastructure before this big event. Now, do I have any basis to go on off of this? Yeah, I do. Just last year in California, you remember when the Chinese were coming for that big event and they had been telling us for over a decade that they couldn't do anything about homelessness, and they were able to solve homelessness in 24 hours?
Yeah, I know exactly.
So we have uh, a track record of when we got something big and we want to use the area, we can amazingly quickly clear it out, and we're
Yep.
heartless about it. Because I thought that was more heartless than what's going on now.
It was interesting. I read an article a couple of weeks ago too, talking about how palm trees. California is trying to get rid of all the palm trees that were obviously palm trees are not native to California, and they were largely planted before the Olympics in the I think around 19. I think the Olympics were in 1930, maybe. So in the late 20s, early 30s. These things were planted, so most of them have they're getting towards the end of their lifespan, and they're causing problems with the palm leaves falling down and hurting people and making a mess of the street and blah 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 blah. And palm trees don't create much shade. They don't. There's not a lot of benefit to it because bottom line is in typical California fashion, they were planted to try to trick people into believing that the weather was palm weather all season long. And in reality, we all know that that's not necessarily the case. But I just think it's kind of ironic. But it's interesting. They were talking also in that article about that the concern with them is that they also can spread. The nature of the design of the palm tree, they can spread fires.
Mm-hmm.
And sure enough, this was literally 2 weeks ago. I read this thing, and then this week we see, what do we see on TV? You see these videos of palm trees burning on fire, shooting flame out the side, and like almost sending fireballs down the road into other people's houses. So it's like, that's interesting.
Well, they're not like a regular tree. They're extremely fibrous.
Yes.
Yeah. They don't have to get completely dry. They just need to be parched. They'll blow up like a match.
Yep. So a lot of stuff to watch. It's typical.
Well, what do you think about TikTok, Mike? Do you think we're going to have it past the 19th? You haven't had any thoughts or ideas about it, so I'd love to hear what you got to say about TikTok, because the 19th is coming soon.
Well, I'm gonna preface what I say by saying that I am, being a content creator myself, I'm extremely in support of keeping TikTok in place. I believe that this whole nonsense that TikTok poses a threat to the U.S. because it's owned by China is a crock of shit. The fact that they can gather data and potentially use that data and potentially send AI or fake stories or whatnot to infiltrate into our society through that thing is all potentially true. However, that isn't just TikTok, guys. That's your phone. That's Facebook. That's Instagram. That's you name it. If you think for a second that you're not tracked and that China doesn't have your data already, you might as well just hang yourself right now because you are living in an alternate universe. That is not the way it works. So TikTok as a single entity is a zero threat. Zero threat, okay? I am 1,000,000% against trying to I think the Congress is full of shit. I mean, and this, by the way, is bipartisan. Both sides voted for this. On both sides, both Republicans and Democrats voted it. It sounds like the Supreme Court likely is going to uphold that. They haven't made a ruling on it yet. And the ban is supposed to go in. But by the way, when we say ban, the ruling itself from the Congress, the law that was passed, states that as of January 19th, TikTok it will be illegal to distribute the app, meaning that the App Store and Google Play will have to take it down. It will be illegal to host any of the anything on an American-based server, which they do, by the way. So the likelihood is, I mean, you're not going to remove it from your phone, but I have heard that likely, because there's been a lot of talk about this. People were like, I've been watching. I mean, also, I'm going to give you a fair statement here. TikTok is probably the number one app that I use for social media, not meaning that I use for Drive the Globe, and I have maybe 5,000. So let's look at it this way: I've got 5,000 followers on TikTok. I don't particularly want to lose those 5,000 followers. So I'm a small example of this, but that's punishing me. This law is punishing me, and I know a lot of creators that are on TikTok that have livelihoods based on TikTok. So you're about to strip away a bunch of basically gig workers that have created their own business through TikTok, that you're about to say, fuck you, we're taking away your platform. So I think the whole thing's a load of shit. But, there's been a bunch of creators that have said, well, they're not going to take away your app on your phone, so we can still do it, blah, 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 blah. The reality is that's not true because, and they go, well, you can go on to a VPN and you can, then you can. None of this is going to happen, right? There's no way that you're going to get the populace of the United States to go, log into TikTok through a VPN so they can watch their. No, what's going to happen is they're going to ban it. It's going to be removed from the apps, and most of these apps are updated on a fairly almost weekly basis. So after a couple of weeks, even if TikTok didn't take down their server, which they have indicated according to their attorney, that they will go dark on January 19th if they ban them. Even if that didn't happen, after a couple of weeks, your app's not going to work anymore, right? It's not the updates, so it'll be all fucked up. So
I'm thinking when you think about the lack of updates, security updates, and things like that, 3 weeks to a month tops. I'm talking about in a perfect world. And I'm thinking that would be an app that would immediately get attacked. So that's really dreaming for it to last that long. Agreed.
So the reality is contrary to what has been discussed out there, I believe if it gets banned on the 19th, basically if the Supreme Court upholds the Congress's vote, then TikTok will disappear on the 19th. Now, that's not saying it's not going to come back very quickly, based on either one of a couple things happening. They overturn the law. Donald Trump gets involved, forces them to reverse the vote, and or the Supreme Court is either a stay or delays the ruling, or there's a bunch of lawsuits, or it's bought. I know Mr. Wonderful from Shark Tank has proposed to buy TikTok. There's a bunch of people. I even saw Mark Cuban. I saw somebody say that Elon Musk was asked to buy TikTok. So, there's a lot of things that could happen. But I think the most important part of this discussion, really, and what's being missed a little bit, is that, to me, this is government overreach. The government is determining that this app, as opposed to Instagram or Facebook or something else, and I get it. They're not owned by the Chinese government. And by the way, TikTok's not owned by the Chinese government either. It's just that there's a Chinese law that states that they can get the data from a Chinese company. So this is ByteDance, which owns TikTok, is not the government. But I don't know what's going to happen. But I think it's overreach, because I think the argument that they're giving us that it's a threat. Look, it's a threat every time I go on Facebook, which is an American-owned business, and I see a story pops up, and I'll give you just one stupid example. I've been watching. I go on Facebook, and the story comes up. They just discovered these new cave paintings in an Egyptian tomb of these things that look like aliens and blah 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 blah. It's totally AI. It's totally made up. It's totally fake. It's a great example of there's a lot of stupid people out there that buy into it and go, "Oh my God, they've discovered that aliens really did build the pyramids." That's no different. I hate to say it. There's no different than the Chinese manipulating TikTok in such a way to make us believe one thing or another. When are we ever going to get to a point? We talked about this with the fire. When are we ever getting to a point where we can put some amount of accountability on us as people? Nobody wants. Well, maybe some people do. I don't want a nanny state, and we talk about this all the time. California is a good example of in my opinion, of a state that's trying to create the ultimate, homeowners association of America. I don't have any interest in that. So I think that's where the bigger argument with this whole TikTok thing is.
Well, Mike, TikTok is nothing, in my opinion. It's literally nothing. It's being used as a bargaining chip for social media in general and for politics beyond social media, tariffs and things like that. That's it. Mm-hmm. It's a pawn in a chess game. Mm-hmm. And that's how I look at it, because
the problem is, once again, who does it hurt by doing this? It hurts the people at the bottom.
I absolutely believe that they are mining information like crazy on us through TikTok. Mm-hmm. But I don't think it's at any rate higher or lower than all the other apps that you use. I believe that we are being monitored on I know that we are being monitored on so many levels that TikTok is the least of my worries. And let's just get into the idea of what kind of information can be obtained through that. You can actually get a lot of information through an app. But
sure.
But the information that you get, you give out all the time, everywhere. It's no secret. You're not given, and it's not going to give them like a national security type of advantage. So this is posturing in a chess game, and it actually has nothing to do with TikTok.
The bottom line is that they're collecting data. That, by the way, that's what makes TikTok, in my opinion, the best of the social media apps, is that they mine in such a way that it is brilliant. Because when I go on TikTok and I start scrolling, and I've tested this, you can manipulate the app, meaning that I'll just give you an example. If I suddenly pause or stop or watch every single cat video that comes up, within 5 minutes, that app is feeding me cat videos like they're going out of style. And that's how well it mines your information. It knows how long you pause on things. It knows, generally speaking, what you like to watch in relevance to what it likes to know. It figures out how long a video you like it to be. How long do you watch it for? It knows everything. And that's what's genius about that app. And by the way, some of this is probably jealousy on the part of us as an American society, because quite frankly, Facebook, Instagram, all the other social media apps are not as good. they're not as good. They're not designed as well. It's the bottom line.
Well, Mike, I recently had to sit in a waiting room while I was getting an oil change, and I'm not exaggerating with this number. Every person sitting there was flipping through TikTok. And there was a variety of ages and sexes and all of that. And they were nobody talking to nobody, everybody flipping. Usually whenever I see somebody sitting and they're holding their phone and they're just flipping like this, I bet my life is TikTok. What I'm getting to is, I don't know what the actual numbers are or anything like that. YouTube and Google may still be on top, but they're barely on top. And the average person isn't engaging with their stuff like they're engaging with TikTok. It's got,
and that's because of the algorithm is so good that it has figured out a way to keep people interested.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, that's the difference. That's what makes it better. Well, and it is better. It is better because look, there's creators that I follow on TikTok, and they also like myself, most creators will post on all of the platforms. But I can tell you that it is a lot more enjoyable to watch X creator on TikTok and flick up and flick and watch stuff than it is to do the same thing on Facebook or YouTube. The app just works better. It's more seamless, and it refers like-minded stuff to you quicker and with better content faster. So, I mean, that's what when I keep, saying that the algorithm is better, it really truly is. It's night and day. So, and then I hear Mr. Wonderful saying he's going to buy TikTok, and obviously ByteDance, they may sell TikTok. They don't want to sell the algorithm, right? Because they'll just make a new one. But I'll tell you what, if Mr. Wonderful buys TikTok and then puts it on a different algorithm, it ain't going to be the same. It might be still called TikTok, but it won't work the same.
The algorithm is the only value in the company, actually.
I would agree with you on that. Yes.
That's like buying a restaurant that's famous for some food, and then you don't serve that food because you don't have the recipe.
It's like Zuckerberg, when he did Instagram, a couple years ago, all of a sudden I was getting these big paychecks from Instagram, deposited in my bank account. And I was like, what the hell is this? There was a check coming in from Meta. Well, they were paying us creators to put up reels. And, he tried desperately to block and to combat TikTok when it first came on the scene. And Instagram tried to emulate TikTok. By the way, as did YouTube with their shorts. And neither one has been even remotely successful. Really, the problem with Zuckerberg is, he's not really that bright, I don't think. Facebook is sort of a has-been. Instagram is kind of also dying. He starts up Threads to compete with X, and nobody gives a shit about Threads. I mean, I know 4 people, 2 of which are listening to this podcast right now, that use Threads, and nobody else. I swear to God, nobody uses that shit.
I wish they would unintegrate it with Instagram because it irritates. I do too. I'll be enjoying myself on Instagram and I'll accidentally click on somebody's thread and it'll just throw me off.
Yep. So,
but Mike,
that's never worked. But
TikTok, the main reason I think that they're going after them is we had the main social media giants. We had the algorithm, and it's purely about competition. They want to either eliminate them or take over them. It has nothing to do with caring about our stuff, because they
absolutely.
Because I'm more fearful and have been more fearful of Facebook than any other app since I've been online.
And isn't it interesting? The same week that we're talking about banning TikTok, all of a sudden, Facebook gets rid of all of their content mediation. They're removing all their programs that they had in place to filter and to screen out content. And now, obviously, this is in correlation with, let's be honest here, Donald Trump taking the office on Monday. Zuckerberg probably put his tail between his legs and said, "Oh shit, I can't do this anymore." And that's what's happening. It's kind of an interesting dynamic, and particularly because here you got Zuckerberg running, Instagram and Facebook and WhatsApp, which are some of the largest social media platforms in the world, and his boss. Think about it this way: his boss next week is going to be Elon Musk of a competing social media company. That's real.
Somebody needs to be documenting that for a future class study at a business college. Because that's going to be, I don't think, has anything like that ever happened? Or even
Hell
close?
No.
Not even close, I don't think.
Phil, we got the weirdest dynamic in history going on right now. You've got the richest guy in the world who owns a large social media company, who, by the way, like I said at the top of the podcast, has been one of the people that being considered to buy TikTok, which is another huge social media company, is potentially, in the second seat of the White House. Let's put it this way. If he's not, he's closer to Trump than Vance is.
That's just for social media. He also owns Tesla. So I mean, the one of the biggest he's involved in like two of the biggest issues in our country.
Which, by the way, Tesla has a market cap worldwide of that one car company. I believe it represents 70% of the total market cap of all automobile manufacturers.
That's crazy.
It's crazy. And let's not forget, he also controls the only space company at this point that has the ability to do anything, right? I mean,
that's a great way to put it.
Yeah. He's the only space company that actually can lift off, fly up to the space station and get back to Earth realistically. And he controls what is becoming very quickly the largest communication company on Earth in Starlink.
He's already reached that easily.
I know. He just went in there. Now he just went in. You see what he did in LA? He drove. I mean, I get it. It's a stunt, but it's a good stunt. He's basically parked Cybertrucks in a grid pattern in LA. He just did that this morning or yesterday. Parked Cybertrucks all over LA with Starlinks on them. And he basically put up a network of Wi-Fi over the fire affected areas so people could have internet. I mean,
well, did you hear about in Turkey where they're not supposed to, that's supposed to be a dry patch where you can't use it? The militias there have been using Starlink and they've learned how to reprogram his stuff.
Yep.
But big picture, the Starlink, you were talking about how big he is in telecommunication. I would say he's the first and only telecommunications company that truly, by definition, is an international telecommunications company.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I used to work for Sprint when they were owned by Deutsche Telekom, and they used to hold that title. However, there was a multitude of countries that they didn't touch. They were landlines. Their lines did not touch everywhere. He actually is a true international telecommunications company and satellite company. He has power beyond just being able to talk on a phone because of that fact. Because I don't know of any or I should say, all satellites prior to Elon Musk had a dual job of working for the military. So my assumption is that his satellites are doing the same thing.
Yeah. So I mean, we went from TikTok and we got off subject, but hey, that's just like we normally do.
Because you brought up Elon, he's involved in everything.
Well, and here's my point to this whole thing. You know, you think about it. So right now you've got this huge TikTok thing going on, and where other social media companies are caught flat-footed and they're making changes really quick before Donald Trump gets in. And then you've got Elon Musk, who's arguably the co-president of the United States starting on Monday. And I mean, I don't know how else to word it. Do you think for a second, because you brought up Tesla, and I'm looking at, I want to pull this up on the screen in front of me. So the market cap of Tesla worldwide is $1.2 trillion. Okay. You know who the number 2 company is? The number 2 company is Toyota remember that Tesla was 1.2 million. Toyota is at 246 billion. And then followed up behind Toyota is 2 companies at 108 billion. So that's 1/12 the size of Tesla. And both of those 2 companies are BYD and I can't even pronounce it, Ixme or something, both Chinese.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, both Chinese. So,
and sad to say, out of all of those you named, there's I don't know where you're reading it at, but there's probably an arrow pointing on the side of the number for Toyota because their numbers are going down.
Yep. As is Tesla actually right now, where BYD is going up. You know, the
That's
Chinese
where
ones
I'm
are going
headed.
up.
That's where
Yep, for sure. But I mean, but so do you think for a second that we talked about the we want to take down TikTok basically because it's Chinese, and do you think for a second that we're not going to somehow support Tesla or somehow try to take down the Chinese competitors because, you know, we got a co-president who's owner of Tesla, right? And by the way, that goes the same thing for communications. It goes the same thing for, space rockets. I mean, we're entering unknown. Let's be honest here. This is unknown territory.
I am excited and fearful at the same time. I'm excited about the possibilities of Trump and Elon Musk being in office, but I'm also fearful because China of what China's position is right now. Their economy was actually in a tailspin last year, and reports just came out, and their imports and export numbers are just outrageous. So their economy is having a comeback. Their military is at its strongest. This could be good. This could be bad. We might end up having to go to war with China. I could see that on one end of the spectrum, and all the way on the opposite end of the spectrum, I could literally see us just literally being friends with China, continuing on with working with them, importing, exporting, but we come out to something a little bit more fair for America. And I
think that's the goal. I think that's what Trump's going to try to do. Is he's going to try to create. It's not going to be a war per se. It's going to be an economic war, with the goal of coming out more on par. I think that's what's going to happen.
I'm not, when I make a prediction, I stand on it. I'm not willing to make one on this because
fair enough.
I don't trust the Chinese. I don't trust Trump. I don't trust Elon. I don't trust anybody who has, if someone is making decisions and they have far more to gain with those decisions than I don't trust you.
Yep. Well,
because people generally are biased toward their own, their own personal needs and wants and desires. So after all is said and done, I think Trump is not a war president. He don't want to be at war. But I still don't put it out of question that we could end up in a war.
Well, I mean, the bottom line is we're in the war now. We're in a bunch of them.
No, I'm talking about a war with China.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. If I had to make a prediction on that, I would say no. I don't think so.
If I had to, that would be my prediction. That we're not.
Do you know, Phil? This is the last podcast that we're ever doing under the Biden administration.
That's crazy.
It's crazy.
That's crazy. I don't know what to say.
Next week, we're under the Trump administration. So, man, who knows? That could open up all sorts of new possibilities to talk about stuff.
Oh, I was going to say, it's going to be great for the podcast because it's going to be a lot of I told you so's because, like I told you, I think this term, Trump coming in, it reminds me of when Barack Obama first got elected. You had this large group of people who thought that this man was going to change the world, and he disappointed. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen with Trump. The expectations for him is too high for any president, actually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you may see a lot of, well, I'm going to be on the record to say you're going to see a lot more things happen than you saw under Biden. I think there's more happened in the last 2 months under Trump, and he's not even in office yet, than Biden did.
I agree. But
is it going to be everything that was promised, or is it going to be everything that we've put into our brain? No.
Well, no president keeps all his promises. So that's not even, that's a silly expectation. But there are some who come closer to meeting expectations than others. And I think he's going to disappoint the hell out of his voters. I mean, his main talking point he's already gone against was the immigration thing.
Right.
The facts are backing me so far. The main thing that got him in office, when I talked to groups of people of all different demographics, that was the main resounding one. And that's the first one. That's the first one. So don't talk to me like he's some great person. I keep saying the same thing. If you've made it to the point where you're the president, you part of the game. You're not for us. You can't get the job.
That's right. That's right. So stay tuned because Monday we got a new game in town.
So what is your prediction, Mike? You seem like you got a real you got your rose-colored glasses on.
My prediction for what's going to happen over the next 4 years?
Or you could just go with the next 2 days, a week, whatever you want to pick. What do you think moving forward when he's sworn in? You can pick the time.
I think you're going to see a flurry of executive orders. Yeah, I think they're going to attempt to make it seem at least like there's a lot going on really fast. I think that just and this has gotten probably no doing of his, you're going to see a ceasefire peace thing in the Middle East with Lebanon, or not with Lebanon, with Hamas in the Gaza Strip, and you're going to get the hostages or whatever ones are still alive released. And that's underway right now, but I think that's going to happen in the next couple of days. I think you're going to get a ceasefire in Ukraine, Russia too. I think he will get that accomplished.
I agree. Like I said, I have always gotten the idea that Trump is not interested in war at all. He he out of all the presidents in my lifetime, he's the only one that I sense is hesitant about war, does not want to go to war, does not want our troops other places. He's the only one I've ever gotten that feeling from. And
well, and that's also
we've actually had 4 years, and he showed us we didn't have no wars.
Yeah, because he is an isolationist in many ways. So
I agree.
By definition, we don't want to be involved in anything, let alone war. Now, having said that, I mean, they're making moves to like buy Greenland, and you know, we're going to be talking about this more. I know we joked about it, and you know, he joked about it, and then I read more and more, and then I seen a couple polls that were put out in Greenland that actually had a majority of people in support of it. So stay tuned on that.
So
sounds crazy, but
what do you think about it? What are your feelings? Would you like it to happen? You don't care?
I mean, look, they're using the statement that we need it for our own. What are they saying, for security and whatnot? I think that's a load of garbage. But you know, do we want the resources and a naval and a military base there? Yep, which we have already. But I don't know. I mean, I don't think, like I said on the last podcast, Greenland is not in support of staying even with Denmark, and they haven't been for many years. They've been trying to basically secede from that anyways and have their own. And by the way, if they did, their only real option to that would be to be very closely supported by either us or Canada. And we all know that Canada is basically supported by us, so that means us. So there's really no option. So I think they know if they want to be independent, they have to be tied to us.
Well, I don't know if it'll be Greenland, but I feel like in the next 4 years, we are going to absorb some country. I just don't know what it is. There's so many.
Isn't it ironic?
There's so
it's
many.
Ironic that. Go ahead.
There's so many different things going on like that, where we're having discussions about Canada, Greenland, and a few other places. I think one of them is going to happen. That's all.
Yeah, but don't you think it's just an ironic twist that over the last 10 years or whatever, we've been mad basically at countries like Russia, as an example, for doing exactly what we're talking about right now, which is going out and taking over land.
Well, Mike, this is what I keep hitting you over the head with is, as a citizen, you have to come to a point of maturity where you realize we are an empire. An empire can't stop. You can't sit on your laurels. So it's been amazing that we've gone all of this time without acquiring more and more often. It's part of the job as an empire. I know that's an ugly word, and it insinuates some ugly things, and I have the same sentiment about those things. But I'm an adult, and I realize that I want to be in a safe country with all the amenities, and that's what comes with it. And I'm willing to not pretend or, act like I don't know what's behind the curtain. Some people just want the magic, but they don't want to know how the magic is made.
And I think we have more of that under Emperor Musky Trump. That's what I'm going to call him, Musky Trump.
That's a question for you. Do you think they're going to last 4 years?
I wish.
I'll give you a prediction on that.
I really wish I could understand the dynamic in the first place, because to be completely honest with you, I don't even understand the dynamic now. So I couldn't tell you whether it's going to last, because I don't know what it's based on.
Oh, bro, it's the most basic
What Trump is a narcissist, and he and Musk is the most
power attracts power, but it's a more cliche way of saying it. If I got power, I want to be in cahoots with somebody who has power unlike mine. That once we join together, you know, we're like those cartoon characters when they put their hands together and they're more powerful together.
So Trump has got the office and Musk has got the money.
Right. They are good for each other. But here's my prediction. First 2 years, they're going to be like salt and pepper. They're going to be like this, Mike. Third year, people who are politically astute will start noticing it, but the general public won't notice it. In the third year, you'll start seeing the crumbling. At the end of the third year, they're going to go their separate ways. Elon Musk is going to be bitter enemies with him. And any move Trump makes in his final year, Elon Musk is going to have things to say about it and everything. That's my prediction.
So kind of like Pence.
They're going to use each other for what they use each other for. And it's just, you know, while you're winning, the personality clashes don't happen and stuff like that. Like I said, by about the third year, you're going to see that they were never friends. I'm
unclear what Musk is going to do.
You don't get to that point. You know what I mean? And be homies with another powerful guy. That's in sports or anything.
Yeah. I'm a little unclear right now what Musk's role actually is. So I guess we're gonna find that out shortly.
Well, one thing he did, at least this is my opinion, I absolutely believe that him being so visual during the run up to the election helped Trump get in office. I believe that it strengthened the idea of Trump as a businessman being associated with Elon Musk. Because the conversations about his failed businesses and bankruptcies and all of that stuff, it just ceased once he started hanging with Elon.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Musk was one of the factors. I think the interview with Joe Rogan was another one. I think there were certain key things that were, in hindsight now, we said it at the time, but in hindsight, I think more people can see it.
Another thing that did well, and I still find it amusing, and the reason I find it amusing is because the enemies even had to give him credit begrudgingly. It was when he did the McDonald's
thing.
It
was a home run.
They hated it. They hated it.
Home run. Yep.
Mike, you got anything else you want to say, or you got another topic that you wanted to cover before we get out of here?
No, I think we've left everybody with stuff to think about for the weekend, and we're going to go into next week with a new administration in the U.S. Lots to talk about. We're coming upon spring, and lots going on.
And we're going to start rolling out the guests start next week. We were supposed to start this week. We're assuming that our guest is in the fires, whether it be him trying to survive them. And, you know, he's part of a bunch of emergency like crews and stuff like that. He may actually be working. But anyway, moving forward, you're going to see a bunch of guests rolling out. All right. Any last words, Mike?
Stay safe. Have a good weekend.
I thought you were going to say mine.
No, all right. I thought about it.
I would have been fine with that. All right, guys.
That would have been funny.
Stay safe. Tread lightly. And hopefully we'll see you here or on the trail soon.
You have been listening to Waypoint Overland's Random Waypoints. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more.